Students, have you ever wondered how the lives of people in forest have changed into this modern era time and how the development has occurred? Interesting, right? So hello students, let's get our questions, some answers while discussing the back exercise of chapter Forest, Society and Colonialism with Megha Goyal. Starting with the very first question, we need to discuss how the changes in forest management in colonial period affected the following groups of people. Number one is shifting cultivators. With the colonial period coming into effect, the European foresters thought that shifting cultivation is harmful in terms of productivity. They said how a land which is used for cultivation for every few years can grow trees for railway timber. And moreover, any mishappening like the burning of forest will directly affect the timber, and also the harmful flames will affect the health. Shifting cultivation also made it harder for the government to calculate taxes. As a result, many shifting cultivators were forcefully displaced from their homes in the forest. Second, nomadic and pastoralist communities. Their daily lifestyles were badly affected by the new forest laws. Due to the changes brought in by the forest management, nomadic and pastoralist communities like Korawa, Karacha and Yerukola, the Madras Presidency lost their livelihoods. With the arrival, nomads were not even allowed to cut woods or collect fruits or hunt, because of which they sometimes had to steal wood and were also regarded as criminal tribes. Therefore, they were forced to work instead in factories, mines and plantation under government supervision. Third is firms trading in timber forest produces. The new trading policy by Britishers almost halted the trades of the existing firms, as they were no longer allowed to cut woods. This is because the Britishers needed a large amount of wood to build their ships. However, the British government gave many large European trading firms the sole right to trade in forest products in particular areas. Grazing and hunting by the local people were also restricted. Coming to the fourth is the plantation owners. With the arrival of the forest management policy, the plantation owners were the most favored, mainly the Europeans. Large areas of natural forest were cleared to make way for tea, coffee and rubber plantation to meet Europe's growing need for these commodities. Also, the British government gave vast areas of forest land at quite a cheap rate to the plantation owners. The fifth is kings or British officials engaged in hunting. The earlier way of survival for the people in and near the forest was due to hunting. Hunting was one of the sole livelihood for them, but due to the inculcation of the new forest policy, the British government had snatched the sole right of Indians and restricted the hunting of various animals. However, the British officials were allowed to hunt freely in the reserved forest. As a result, this became like a sport at such a great level that most of the species became extinct. Moving ahead to question number 2, it says, what are the similarities between the colonial management of forest in Bastar and in Java? Answer, the colonial managers of Bastar in India were the British, while in Java, the colonial managers were the Dutch. And there were many similarities in the laws of forest control in Java and Bastar, and some are: number 1. The land of the forest of both areas were handled by a government with strict forest policy. They didn't allow hunting and grazing in the forest. Second, villagers were punished for grazing cattle in young stands, transporting wood without a permit, or traveling on forest roads with horse cars or cattle. Third, however, the Britishers enacted laws that permitted the Britishers to exploit forest trees for timber, to build ships and railways to protect and further their imperial interest. Coming to question number 3, it says, between 1880 and 1920, forest cover in the Indian subcontinent declined by 9.7 million hectares from 108.6 million hectares to 98.9 million hectares. Discuss the role of the following factors in the decline. The number 1 factor is railways. The spread of railways played a major role in the decline of the forest, because with the rise of the demand of railway for the movement of goods for colonial purpose, wood is needed as a fuel to run the train and also used as sleepers to keep the railway track intact with each other. As the railway tracks spread throughout the India, a large and larger number of trees were felled. Coming to the second factor, it is shipbuilding. By the end of 19th century, oak forest in England started to decrease in number. This created a problem of timber supply to the Royal Navy. Hence, search parties were sent to explore the forest resources of India. And within a decade, trees were being felled on a massive scale and vast quantities of timber were being exported from India. The third factor is agricultural expansion. In colonial period, cultivation expanded rapidly for a variety of reasons. First, the British directly encouraged the production of commercial crops. Second, in the early 19th century, the colonial state thought forests were unproductive. Moreover, in 19th century in Europe, food grains were more needed to feed the growing urban population and raw materials for industrial purposes. Hence, the cultivators continued to extend their limits of their cultivated fields, which resulted in the forest areas depletion. Coming to the fourth factor, it is commercial farming. The British encouraged the production of commercial crops like jute, sugar, wheat and cotton. These crops were needed by Europe to feed its growing urban population as well as to increase its industrial production. Hence, large number of tracts of forest land were cleared to make land available for commercial farming. The fifth factor is tea and coffee plantation. Large areas of natural forest were cleared to make way for tea, coffee and rubber plantation to meet Europe's growing need for these commodities. The colonial government took over the forest and gave vast areas to European planters at cheap rates. The last factor is Adivasis and other peasant users. Adivasis and other peasant users were also responsible for reduction of forest cover. In spite of different forest laws, whenever they found any opportunity, they continued to cut trees for cooking their food, making their houses, etc. Their livelihood came from forest produce only. Coming to the last question, question number 4, it says, why are forests affected by wars? Answer to this is, forests are affected by wars due to the following reasons. In India, the forest trees were cut indiscriminately to meet war needs of the British. In Java, just before the Japanese occupied the region, the Dutch followed a scorched earth policy, destroying sawmills and burning huge piles of giant teak logs so that they would not fall into Japanese hands. Many villagers used this occasion to expand cultivation in the forest. After the war, it was difficult for the Indonesia Forest Service to get this land back, as in India, people's need for agricultural land increased. So with this, we have covered the back exercise of chapter 4 of History class 9. Thank you for watching the video till the end, and for more such videos, subscribe to the channel and share your views in the comment section below. Till then, bye-bye.